are listening to the In Search SEO podcast, the podcast that paints town red with succulent search marketing insights. Today we are under review. The great Aaron Weiche, CEO of GatherUp, is here to tell you all about how you can take your Google review game to a totally new level. We're talking about how to repurpose your reviews in ways you never thought of, how to get smart with repurposing the right reviews at the right time, and where you should be showcasing your Google reviews and how to do it. Plus, the age-old advice of writing content for featured snippets might not be the best idea. I'm here to explain why heresy. I know. I am your host, Mordy Oberstein. I am joined by the quietly roaring, the semi-spiteful Sapir Karabello.
Hello, Mordy.
Hello, Sapir.
How are you doing?
Awesome. This is like our fifth take at recording this because my kids keep popping into the room and making noise with their toys on purpose.
So
I see you. I know you're behind that door. I can hear you, the toy. Get it out of here. He's doing it. I'm telling you, I'm losing it. I'm losing it, Sapir. I'm losing it. How are you?
I'm good. Same old, same old.
You actually yell at my kids on the podcast. Get out of here. Stop playing with that toy. Live parenting. Parenting in action here on the In Search SEO podcast. Get out of here.
You're a model parent.
I am.
Morty.
I should write a book about parenting. It's called Get Out of Here. Stop making that noise.
Okay.
What's going on with you?
Nothing going on.
Nothing?
Life's boring. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So like nothing like exciting, like you're not wearing a bright colored shirt today? Like
Nope.
You're not living on the edge as you usually do?
Right.
Oh wow, neon colored shirt. I'm Sapir. I'm living large. Breaking the mold.
I don't think I ever wore a neon colored shirt
Really?
before.
Oh, because you're not from the 80s. Okay, that makes sense. That's all I had. Okay. Do not forget, we put out a new episode of the In Search SEO podcast each and every Tuesday. You can find it on Stitcher, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on SoundCloud. Of course, you can find it on the Rank Ranger blog. And of course, you can subscribe on iTunes or find the podcast wherever great podcasts are found. Don't forget, we put out new content, bonus content rather, on the Twitter page for the In Search SEO podcast. That's at InSearch_SEO. You can find bonus content from our guests each and every week. It usually comes out on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Also, Rank Ranger has teamed up with the brand SERP Guy, also known as Jason Barnard. And we are offering some really cool, or Jason's offering some really cool brand reputation, brand SERP courses. You can find these courses at rankranger.com/reputation-management-courses. That's rankranger.com/reputation-management-courses. We will link to that in the show notes for this podcast. Okay, great show for you today. Talk to Aaron Weiche about some novel ways to use your online reviews. But first, if there is one eternal topic in SEO, it is the featured snippet, and it is writing content to capture featured snippets. So I'm here to offer you a hot take on why this hot topic is probably not the best idea in all cases, and how you might actually be killing your content if you follow this advice. So it's a hot take on what's hot in SEO.
Red Hots! Get your Red Hots here!
So I know what you're thinking. Don't write for featured snippets. Are you nuts? Have you lost your damn mind? Because I will help you find it, to quote The Office. Do you do drugs, Morty? Do you have a drinking problem? Were you dropped on your head as a baby? Probably.
Oh, wow. Okay, that escalated pretty quickly, Morty.
I'm just running through the logical options that explain
very
things.
Logical. Right.
Okay. But I do mean this in seriousness, because that's good English right there. Let's run this through, okay?
Yes.
If I were to ask you, Sapir...
Yeah.
Okay, if I were to ask you, what should you do? What should you do? Not should you target feature snippets. Obviously, you should target feature snippets. But what should you do in order to win that targeted feature snippets in terms of the writing process? Like, what would you say to do? How do you write for featured snippets, Sapir?
Well, I would say that first you need to write content that answers questions, right?
Of course. Like, very
Right.
deep point right there. Don't state the obvious, Sapir. Don't state the obvious.
But that's not everything, Morty. Okay? You should write answers that have a lot of details. And I think that's kind of a testament to good quality, you know? That it's not a thin content.
Right. Don't write thin content. Good. Okay,
right.
all true.
And also, I guess you need to utilize headers and create lists.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Fine. Great. Fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's pretty much. Yeah. No, that's pretty much the advice you're gonna hear. Okay.
Right.
But by the way, we talk about this in 2 recent blog posts. We did a guide to feature snippets, so you can check out this kind of advice, but in way more depth and detail on the Rank Ranger blog. Little plug there. But fine. Okay. I hear what you're saying. It's all good advice. So let's put this to the test. I want you, Sapir, to follow this advice that you said, and you can plug in 5 or 6 other details about writing feature snippets, and the same thing applies. I want you to take that advice, and you folks at home doing the same thing. I want you to answer with the advice about writing feature snippets that we just heard, or you might have in your brain at home. I want you to answer why string theory and quantum physics do not align. Go ahead, write. Go.
Come on.
Write it.
Morty.
Write content for a feature snippet that answers why string theory and quantum physics do not align by talking about headers and lists. And go ahead, write it.
Nah, man, that's too complicated. No.
Oh, it's complicated. Oh, I mean, there's content that's complicated out there. Oh no. Okay, I just did that Cookie Monster thing. Oh no. Okay, this is the problem. Okay, all the advice you mentioned and all the advice you generally hear about featured snippet content creation writing, blah, 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 blah. It's all good advice. It's all par for the course, pretty much. But it all pretty much applies to top level questions, top level content, and pretty much basic topical material. Like, you can't follow that advice for deeper content. It doesn't work. By the way, when I say deep content, I mean like truly deep content. Because it can't be written in this way. And I think part of the problem is when I say deep content in the SEO context, people think, okay, deep, authoritative, nuanced content. Okay, but what's truly deep, authoritative, nuanced content in terms of the average web page versus what that actually looks like in real life are 2 different things. In other words, for your average web page, you're not going to get too deep into content. You're not going to get too deep into a topic. It's pretty much simple, straightforward. Okay, so what we think as SEOs as what's deep content, what's not thin content, and what actually is deep content are not the same thing. Like, apply what we think deep content is in the SEO world to like the academic standard. That's not deep content at all. Okay, so truly deep and authoritative content, it means different things in different contexts. Okay, so when I'm talking about creating, writing for a feature snippet, when the topic is deep, I mean like in the more academic sense, like it's really a complicated topic, or it's a really complicated take, or a nuanced take, or it's something on a detail of a topic.
Right. Yeah, you're making a good point. I can't argue with that.
Thank you. Show is over.
Yeah.
We're done. No, what I'm saying is like you have to be careful with the idea of writing for featured snippets. You have to think about the process as you, Sapir, have described it. Does it work for the content you're writing for? Because it might not. It might not work for a deeper sort of nuanced topic, like string theory and quantum physics. You can't write a feature snippet or headings and good quality. That's not going to cut it. Do you know what I mean?
I get the big picture that you're trying to describe. But I don't know. Can you be more specific? Like, how would you approach kind of thing?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I ran. I mean, I have an example. Hold on. Okay.
Of course, you have an example.
Obviously, I know that I have to come armed and ready to defend myself here because I'm talking about like complete heresy. Like, not writing for feature snippets. I actually just writing content that's good content and hoping Google pulls it out for a feature snippet. Heresy. Okay, so I'm going to take an example where it does work. You ready?
Please, not baseball. Please.
No, not baseball, teaching.
Not baseball.
I'm going to stick to what I know best.
Oh, teaching. Oh,
teaching.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Which I know second best to SEO and third best to baseball. Okay. Here we go. I ran a search for how to teach kids to read. And I got a feature snippet from readingeggs.com, and it was a list. The feature snippet was a bullet. It was not a bullet. It was a numbered list. And I'll read to you. I'll start reading through what I actually saw. Here's what the feature snippet said. Okay, it said, here are 10 simple steps to teach your children to read at home. 1, use songs and nursery rhymes to build phonemic awareness. 2, make simple word cards at home. 3, engage your child in a print-rich environment. 4, play word games at home or in the car. And it keeps going. Okay? And as you would expect, each one of these numbered items reflects an H3. Right? So on the page itself, there's an H3 that says, use songs and nursery rhymes to build phonemic awareness. So let's take a look at what the content said on the actual webpage under the first item shown in the feature snippet. So again, the query was how to teach kids to read. You get 10 items, a list of 10 items in a feature snippet. The first one is use songs and nursery rhymes to build phonemic awareness. And on the webpage, there's a heading that says, use songs and nursery rhymes to build phonemic awareness. And under that heading, it reads, children's songs and nursery rhymes aren't just a lot of fun. The rhyme and rhythm help kids to hear the sounds and syllables in words, which helps them learn to read. A good way to build phonemic awareness, one of the most important skills in learning to read, is to clap rhythmically together and recite songs in unison. This playful and bonding activity is a fantastic way for kids to implicitly develop the literacy skills that will set them up for reading success. That is good content, by the way. That's great content. It's totally true. When I used to walk around school, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. When I was a teacher, you walk around, you hear the first and second graders clapping and reading and blah, blah, blah. And I said to myself, that sounds wonderful. And thank God I don't have to do that. I teach higher grades. Because singing and clapping is not me.
But Mordy, they're basically doing what I talked about earlier.
That's true. But they followed your advice, and it's good. Yeah. It's good content. That is really good content for that query of how to teach kids to read, whatever the query I did was. So they clearly followed your advice, but let's dive deeper. Because the paragraph here mentioned phonemic awareness. Okay, phonemic awareness is, let's go deeper. Okay, I remember when I was doing my master's.
Yeah.
So I had these two professors often. One of them I loved, and one of them I hated. And the one I hated, we spent like months talking about phonemes. Okay, phonemes are basically like what makes a word sound different from the next word, like cat versus bat, k versus b. I just taught you. Okay, I'm teaching you how to read here on the Intro to SEO podcast. I hated that class.
Why?
I just didn't like it. Okay, but because my point is on this idea of phonemes of distinct sounds from one word to the next, or phonemic awareness, as the paragraph I read to you mentions. Okay, this subtopic in how to learn how to read. I spent months on this. It was the most boring thing I ever did. But let's use my boring learning that I've done in my past to help with SEO. Because let's say you did a search for the role of phonemic awareness in learning to read.
Of course, I do that search
all the time, right? So you get a feature snippet, and it reads, again, the query is the role of phonemic awareness in learning to read. But the point is, if you don't know what that means, it's a very detailed aspect of the reading process. Here's what the page said. For the feature snippet. Here's what the feature snippet said. Phonemic awareness teaches students to both hear and manipulate sounds and to understand that spoken words are made up of a sequence of speech sounds. Through my research, that's not me, that's the person writing this article. Through my research, I learned that students who were able to identify phonemes rapidly were able to read more fluently because of this rapid processing. That's a little bit deeper than what we just read before in the, how to learn how to read. How to teach kids to read, feature snippet, right?
Right.
Okay, this is a very nuanced topic. It's a very deep topic. And by the way, there's pages and pages of research on phonemic awareness and its role in the reading process. Told you, I spent months in an education course learning about this stuff. I don't remember any of it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I just remember spending months on this. This one thing, phonemic awareness. It's not the kind of thing you're going to be able to answer under an H3. Like, a little paragraph, what is phonemic awareness's role in the reading process? You're not going to be able to answer that in a little paragraph with an H3 on top of it. In this case, Google takes it from a blog, a not very long blog, by the way, but a very, very detail-oriented, research-based blog from scholastic.com. One read of this blog, and it's very clear that none of the things you talked about, Sapir, and how to write for a feature snippet apply. There's no use of headers. There's no lists, bullets. It is a very dense piece of content that Google pulled this snippet out of.
Yeah.
And my point is that if you try to write about, using phonemic awareness to teach reading skills, and you try to write it like the way we as SEOs try to write for feature snippets, your content would be crap. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for a complicated topic or a very detailed look at a very small sliver of an overall topic. It doesn't work. You have to be careful how you write and don't get caught up. I need to write for feature snippets, so I got to use the H3 and bulleted list. If that doesn't make sense for your content, don't do that because you will kill your content. And you will not end up in the feature snippet either. Because if you think I'm wrong, I will prove it to you because Google agrees with me. Google agrees with me. Do you want to know how, Sapir?
Okay. Listen, I don't think you're wrong, but I'll bite. How can you prove that Google agrees with you, Mordy?
Oh, good setup question. Thank you so much. Look, so Google obviously, right, it can hone in on the headings and the format of the content, tables and lists. And when it comes to choosing a URL for some types of content, for some queries, it will prefer that you have those headings and those things, nicely organized paragraphs underneath the headings or lists or tables and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, it doesn't. It knows it can't rely on those things. Notice Google says, hey, if all things being equal, we have a nice structure of headers here. We'll make a nice list out of those headers. We have a table here. We'll pull that in. Google knows, hey, we can rely on these elements on the page to make a nice little feature snippet for ourselves. But Google also knows that it can't do that sometimes, which is why it uses BERT or things like BERT to help pull content out for a feature snippet. Because BERT's advantage is not that, hey, Google, I'm Bert, and I can tell you where there's a nice set of H3s here you can pull content from. I mean, Google does help in understanding what's in those paragraphs under the H3s using BERT, but that's not where BERT shines. BERT shines where the structure on the page doesn't exist. Like the feature snippet I quoted from scholastic.com. There were no headers on that page. Nothing. There's no paragraph, there's no bullets, there's no list, nothing. That's where BERT shines. It shines where the structure doesn't exist. Where Google has to use BERT as an answer engine, pull out the content from a less structured environment, which applies where? When the topic is a little bit deeper, where the topic is much more nuanced, where a topic goes into way, way more details than your average piece of content does. And that's where BERT, that's where BERT shines. That's why Google's using BERT. Because Google knows it can't rely on those page elements when the content reflects a deeper topic. So Google gets it, which is why they have a device called BERT. Maybe we should get it also. That's my hot take. And everyone can cool their jets now.
Oh, okay, Mordy. Thank you. Wow, enlightening stuff, as usual.
I'm not going to take that as sarcastic. I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate your compliment. Okay, let's get into content per se, review content in specific, and how you can leverage those reviews to the max, because here's Aaron Weiche. Oh my God. Wait, before we get to Aaron, I can't believe I just did that. I literally used to do the same thing when I was doing my education studies. Phonemes, Morty. Phonemes. They're called phonemes. I apologize. I don't know what, it's like a tick in my brain. It has something to do with the way phonic sounds and phonetic awareness. Phonemes, not phenomes. They're called phonemes. Okay, here's Aaron Weiche.
Here comes another search marketing expert. It's time for an in-search interview.
This is another In-Search SEO podcast interview session. Joining us today is a fellow podcaster. He's literally traveled all over the U.S. speaking about local SEO. He's spoken to jacuzzi dealers. He's spoken to propane leaders. He knows everything about local SEO and then some, and he's here to help your business harness the power of reviews. He is Aaron Weiche. Welcome.
Mordy, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. So there's a lot of things we could talk about in terms of you and your history. You're the CEO of GatherUp, which we'll talk about in a second. But what really struck out to me is that you're a Twins fan.
I am. I'm a born and raised Minnesotan. I'll try to keep my O's shorter than longer
Nice.
in the
Thank
interview
you.
today.
Please,
But,
if you could.
yeah, Twins baseball and the some of the best years of Twins baseball, 87 and 91 World Championships.
Right.
That was like 8th grade and 11th grade for me. I got to go to some of the World Series games.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, love and currently missing Major League Baseball and watching Twins baseball while I work every night.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into that. What a bunch of horrible, whatever expletive you want to say about professional baseball players and owners. But I share that bond with you being a Twins fan. While you were going to the games and watching Kirby Puckett hit home runs, I was going to the games as a Yankee fan, throwing batteries at Kirby Puckett. Not literally, but figuratively. Well, though people were actually throwing batteries, so.
Yes.
That's New York for you.
The way we see it here, I mean, a Yankees fan is willing to do anything to get a win. They obviously buy all their wins. And so, throwing batteries that's no big deal. We know what to expect from
Right. No, that's fine. I'm okay with all of that. So tell us about GatherUp, because you are the CEO of GatherUp.
Yeah, GatherUp for most people would qualify as a reputation management solution. So we help customers gather, manage, and market their customers' experience, which most often translates into reviews. So at the end of the day, what we really want to do is help a business listen to their customers. We think about it a little bit differently. We're a little bit more on the customer experience side of things. We see it as it doesn't matter where your customer posts it. You need to understand what your customer thinks about your business. But it obviously publicly translates really well into Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Facebook reviews, and things like that. So we give businesses the tools to be able to inquire to those customers and find out exactly what they're thinking and capture customer experience data like Net Promoter Score, review ratings, survey questions, content on how they felt, and make it easy for that customer to go and leave review at a third-party site.
Yeah, and you should definitely check out GatherUp, because literally the biggest names in local SEO are part of the GatherUp team, like Mike Blumenthal, for example. How is that, by the way? How's it working with Mike?
I would just sum it up as I'm blessed to work with Mike. We've had a friendship for over 10 years now between conference speaking, and we're part of local university together, and now getting a chance to work together. And I love the man dearly, and he has elevated my lines of thinking
Right.
So many times. Yeah, he thinks and sees things on a different level, and it's very rewarding and very eye-opening to spend so much time with him.
Mike is definitely an all-star. So we're going to be talking about repurposing reviews today, which is a mind-blowing concept that I did not hear about until you brought it up to me. Lay it out for us, because you're basically repurposing reviews like you would repurpose content.
Absolutely. So the analogy I use to try to hit home with people is consider it like the bookshelf you have in your house. And you acquire books, you get them, you read them the first time, and then you put them on the shelf, and maybe all they do is gather dust. They now become a visual part of the room, but the content and what's there is never utilized ever again.
Yeah, but you look smart.
Yes, exactly. And reviews can be much the same way, where companies go to gather these reviews and they're trying to bolster their quantity count and their star rating, what I call, those are scoreboard metrics, because they're there for everyone to be able to see them. But I firmly believe and have been able to prove out that these reviews are actually massive assets that you can utilize over and over and over again, especially within your own properties, because they're micro stories of that customer working with you. And they both provide you with content that's strategically beneficial and tactically beneficial in SEO, but also along, trust and conversion and those type of elements. So, what we're going to talk about today is kind of like breaking that down and helping people get ideas to how do I not just let these reviews sit in my Google My Business profile or in Facebook? How do I extract them out of there and put them to use within my own digital properties, social accounts, and things like that?
So I really want to get into some examples with you, but before I do that, it's a really fascinating concept, and I'm wondering, because I never thought of it in a million years, how did you come to think of that like this?
Yeah, I guess it kind of gets back to what we hit upon before, where it's more important what your customer says than where they post it. So it's just was continually looking at, like, you go through all this effort to get a customer to talk to you. And when they do, like, that's gold, right? It's this prized possession, especially when they give you more than just a rating or the words, thanks, it was great. But when they go into detail about why they chose you, what stood out and different, an employee that made a difference, like, these are things that as a business owner, as a marketer, you're like, I want to shout these from the mountaintops. So I looked at it instead of, like, getting these and you're excited for that, initial hit of sweet. We went from 42 to 43 Google reviews with another 5-star review. I look at, like, how do we take this wonderful thing that someone is talking about us and we get them to talk to more people over and over again. And we place it in a way where it's on tap when new prospects come our way or come across some of our digital properties. So is really just looking at it like, how do we unlock the full potential of this thing that was hard to get and very valuable?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it almost sounds like it bothered you. Like, I get this gem, literally a gem, because, like, to get somebody to leave you a nice review is much harder than getting them to leave you a nasty review, and then you just do nothing with it. That's amazing. It's really kudos. Okay, so let's go into some of the examples of this. How do you actually do this? What have you done with this?
Yeah, so I basically broke it into, like, 5 different ways to utilize those reviews. It's easiest in our world when we summarize things and put them into a concept. So I've basically called it the 5X review strategy. And it's looking at, how do I take this review and get 5 times the value out of it than just sitting there. So at a high level, and we can go into detail on some of these, but one is, how do you use that summarization on your own site to greet any website visitor with a, like, here's how many customers have talked about us, and here's the level rating that they're willing to give us. The second is recency. Studies have shown over and over again, we live in a what have you done for me lately review. And studies have shown overwhelmingly people care about reviews within the last 90 days, the last 30 days, far more than a review you earned 5 years ago. What does that matter for my experience I'm going to have tomorrow? So finding ways to display your reviews with recency at the top of it. Then reviews by, like, location. If you are a location-based business or you have multi locations that are there. Then one that I think is the biggest, that has so much untapped potential, is, like, theme or keyword reviews. So the quick example here is, say you're an auto repair shop and you have a bunch of reviews mentioning your brake service. Well, likely on your webpage, you have a page dedicated to your brake service. Hey, we do rotors, we do pads, whatever else. You likely are not segmenting any of those reviews and displaying dozens of reviews about your brake service on the brakes page. You've just put one page with reviews. So if you have people talking about a specific keyword, a specific theme, a specific service type, could even be a specific employee, parsing those out and putting those on that page to add more content and to add trust to it is a huge untapped area. And then lastly is, businesses are always scrapping for social media. Like, take those reviews and reuse them on social media. And especially when you consider, here's a way that you can do it and remove the date and the timestamp. So take that review you got from 5 years ago and share it on Twitter today, right? Like, this is what the customer has to say about us. I don't have to tell you that it's from 2015, but these same things are still true of our business. So dust off that book from 5 years ago and put it to use today. And guess what? Your tweet has a shelf life of 30 seconds. So you can go and use it again next week or next month and, repeat a cycle with a number of those.
So then what do you do? Okay, let's say you're an auto dealer and you're great at changing brakes and you suck at changing transmissions. So you have wonderful reviews for brakes and you have, like, horrible reviews for transmissions. Obviously a weird case. I don't think that would actually exist. But let's just, argument's sake.
Yeah.
Do you post reviews on one page and then not on the other one? Like, I can't post my transmission reviews because that would be stupid. But on the other hand, it's kind of like weird. Like, why are the reviews on one page, not on the other one?
Yeah, I think you can in situations like that, because if you look at the crossover, what is the likelihood, or you have to say to yourself, like, is somebody getting their brakes and transmission done at the same time? And are they cross-referencing both of those? One might be the leader compared to the other. Now, in a business where you are looking for bundled services and things like that, yeah, that can be a little bit more difficult. Or you'll just run into, especially when you're, newer or you haven't done as much with a strategy in reviews, you just don't have enough, right? Where I might have 80 reviews about my brake service, but I only have 2 reviews that mention transmissions. And there I would just cherry pick and say like, all right, let's just grab the content and basically throw them on the page as a couple of testimonials, or even just throw one testimonial on the page and make it much larger as compared to utilizing something that might display 20, 30, or 40 reviews that they can carousel through.
So when you don't have a lot of reviews, which I would imagine a lot of businesses, especially if you're starting out, you don't. And you post like, hey, we have a 4.8 star rating. I can never go with the 5-star rating because no one's ever perfect. So like, make it like 4.8. And then, the user sees, wow, it's on the homepage, you have 4.8, review. And then they go to Google, they see your local panel there. I'm like, yeah, you have 2 reviews. Of course, you get a 4.8, jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this obviously still goes on where people are just waking up to that, that happens and that matters. The biggest thing I would tell people is reviews are a long-term game, right? You want to look at this as like exercise or working out and at least get off the couch and get going with it. Be wary of the thinking like I need to fast or I need a steroid or whatever else. Too many people race to do that, and there are consequences to it. So, I would more go from the standpoint of what can we implement so we can start asking our customers for how did we do for you, right? And there's many ways to like crawl, walk, run through that scenario. Specifically, if you just look at it and you're like, all right, we have a crazy low Google count. There I would say like, what personal relationships do I have with customers where I could send them an email and just say, hey, we've realized we need to show our customer experiences in a better light. You've been a customer of ours for 4 years. Here's the link with where you could go write a Google review and do it as a personal reach out before you step into an automated piece of software to help do those kind of things.
So I want to jump back on, you were talking about social media before, and I think it's a great idea, right? Share, hey, check out this review that I got. How do you sort of set the right tone with it? Because I kind of imagine it'd be very easy for a business to go too far with that, where it comes up, hey, check, almost like you're gloating or gloating by bloating, right? You're tweeting all these tweets. Everybody look at us. We're so great. And I would imagine that that's not the right tone to take in most cases.
Yeah, I kind of follow the practice of humble bragging with it. So one-on-one, we built a feature in GatherUp social sharing that basically turns that review into an image. So it overlays the text over a color background, a logo background, a photo, just because social media is a visual platform across the areas you should care about: Instagram, Google Posts, Twitter, Facebook. So we're creating that image and then using the content in your post. What I usually like to do is call out whatever that user has talked about or said great things about, and just reinforce that that's what's really important to the core of your business, nice. Right? Like if they're talking about, man, the customer service here was excellent, whatever else, then just stating like, this is exactly what we strive for, and we'd love to deliver the same for you, right? So instead of the all out, like, look at me, I'm number one, I'm
Who
the
has
greatest.
2 thumbs and is awesome.
Yes, exactly. It's more of a like, we've achieved this with this customer experience, and this is what we want to do every time, and this is what we want to do for you. And I think that positioning where you get to reinforce what matters and also be very humble about it works extremely well.
Yeah, it's awesome. It becomes about giving and not about taking in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Absolutely.
Love that. So you brought up tools for a second. I want to get into in a jiffy, but I'm wondering, like, it sounds great, but are there ever cases where you wouldn't want to repurpose a review? Assuming the reviews are good. Obviously, if it's a bad review, don't repurpose that.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly even say that. Just your same comment earlier on a 4.8 rating compared to a perfect 5. Having some bad reviews out there humanizes the business, right? And it shows that, yes, things can go wrong. We're not perfect. What's more important in those scenarios, are you showing that you're listening and that you responded to that review? Because that shows that customer, hey, if things don't go perfect, we have a way to talk to this business, and they're actually listening, and they will respond, and they care to make it right. And I think in today's world, that's like far more important than trying to sculpt, we're awesome and we're great and everything you're going to read here is fantastic. And to me, it's the reason why consumers actually seek third-party content and reviews, right? Like you will see an auto suggest on Google, people typing in brand name and the word reviews.
Mm-hmm.
They want to skip past the content you're writing because of course you're going to say, we're great, we're awesome, we've been doing it a long time, we've won all these awards, we're the industry leader, whatever else. But they want to go to what is the public opinion of this business. And so even as yourself, you're going to come across far more authentic and trustworthy if you have those variations. And by far and away, the best organizations we work with, like they embrace that and they say, hey, we're going to show all of our reviews, but we're also going to respond to every bad experience that's out there.
Right.
So I would say don't shy away from it. If you have more bad reviews than good reviews, like that's a business problem, right? Like that's not in your reviews. Like you need to fix, you need to fix something in process, whatever. I tell people all the time, like I'd already be retired on my own private island somewhere if, because we ask for reviews with a beautiful email or a text message, it turned a 1-star experience into a 5-star experience, right? Like that's not what our tool does. All we do is capture exactly what happened with the business and the customer.
No, and it's a good point because I mean, when I look for a review, say I'm particularly on Amazon, I do this. I'm looking for the bad reviews because I want to see how bad are the bad reviews. Like, hey, they shipped it in this box and the box is totally messed up. Like, I can live with that. Like, all right, like the product itself is fine. Just they do a really bad job shipping it in a nice quality box. Fine, and I don't want to cut you off.
And I do the same, right? Because you want to see what's. Here's the easiest way to put it. You want to see that the great things about the business are a trend and that happens every time. And you want to see that the bad things are one-offs, right? You don't want to, if everybody's talking about that the communication is terrible, you're going to skip it because you see that on repeat. And that's the same thing we're looking for. I do the same if I go to buy a TV. If I see everyone saying the picture isn't sharp, I'm on to the next TV and the next product because it's consistently delivering that same fault.
Yep. So I'm wondering, hey, we're an SEO podcast, so immediately in my mind, everything goes to Google reviews. But there are other platforms that do exist. They do exist.
Yes.
When it comes to showing something on your site or review on your site, or if you're going to push it on social media, I would imagine it's per vertical. But where do you prefer to pull from? Yeah, Yelp, Amazon, Facebook. Does it matter?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with one area where I think people completely overlook from a number of reasons because it doesn't have the sex appeal of someone else's logo on it. And that's number one, a first-party review. So overwhelmingly, like the numbers are off the charts. On the low end, somewhere between 4 to 10 times the amount of customers will give you a direct review overstating it publicly. We are not all wired to say, hey, world, I'm willing to stake my name and my opinion on Google or Yelp or Facebook or anything else. So number one, I tell people at a bottom line, if you really want to hear from a lot of your customers, you're going to want to ask them, hey, directly give us a rating and give us your feedback. And as an SEO, that's just more content. Do you want one content writer writing for you, or do you want 500 writing for you? So
500, that's why we use PBNs, no?
Exactly. There you go.
Right. We don't use PBNs for the record.
Yeah.
Right.
If you care about knowing more about that customer, you will make it so that they can talk to you, and talking publicly is a choice. Because it's so foolish to say, I only want to hear from you if you're willing to say it here, right? Like that's just a big faux pas. After that, yes, Google, massive visibility because of search and the doorway they have and everything else. Right now, I would say Facebook, which Facebook reviews are actually recommendations. They switched a couple of years ago from 5 stars to a yes or no recommendation. Right. With COVID, with everything going on, people having conversations about you is super important. I use the phrase, like, mentions are your best marketing right now. So Facebook recommendations are highly elevated. More people are on Facebook. They're looking for ways to support businesses and to write reviews and to write recommendations. And Facebook recommendations actually can be more of a conversation where it's not just a static, here's the review, here's the business reply. Anyone can chime in on the recommendation.
Yeah, that's cool.
They can second it, like it, share it, do whatever they want. And then, yes, after you get past that, then it is vertical sites. And the biggest thing that I tell people to do is, as we were talking that a consumer does, take your brand name and type in the word reviews. And when you get that first page of Google results, any site that appears on that first page is a site that you should care to at least have a handful of reviews on. So
I don't think people do that enough. I think people
No.
do not do that enough.
No. And those are the sites that have enough authority to rank. So it might be the BBB, it might be YP.com, it might be House, or, again, depending upon vertical, but there's likely 4 or 5 sites that pop up for your business. And that's where, yes, put the lion's share of focus into the main ones, yourself, Facebook, Google, but definitely get a handful of positive ones at the other sites that appear there.
So how do you do this at scale, which I'm assuming is where you guys step in, because it sounds like this could be completely overwhelming.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is so fun too, right? Like,
you're about to geek out, aren't you?
yes.
Yeah.
So when you consider the flywheel of what you can build in this is what we've worked to automating and create that efficiency inside of our product. So, one, at the very start, you're automating requesting reviews, right? So you're either using an API or using Zapier. We have an app out in Zapier, and we're connecting to your billing system or a POS or a CRM. So we know a customer experience has happened, and it's automating sending the customer into our system. That's automatically going out. We're sending reminders. We're capturing the feedback, getting the information. Then we're automatically monitoring reviews. So whether they talk to you direct or they leave a review at Facebook or Google, we're capturing that and bringing that into our system. Then, especially for things like, we're automatically segmenting them by location, because that's how, the local world works. Everything is by location, review profiles. So that automatically happens. And then our review widget, so we have a little widget, you plug in a couple of lines of code onto your page, and it will automatically stream those reviews up to your site. So you can choose settings. You can say, hey, show every review, just reviews from these sites, just reviews of this rating. But then you can stream those up. So
That's
as you
awesome.
can see from this, a completely no-touch situation. Now, one of the things I really love is we have a feature called auto tagging. So you can set up a keyword list and say, okay, back to the auto shop. If they say brakes, and then we can build out a list and say, we'll tag everything with brakes. If they say brakes, brake pads, rotors, any of these 10 words trigger this tag to be brakes. And then we can build another widget, which we call a tag widget, and say, anytime this tag fires, then send this review specifically to this page in this widget.
Sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So it's like when you like see all that happen and you realize you can watch it like a TV show and you don't have to do anything. Like it's awesome. You're just feeding, hundreds of keywords on some amount of frequency automatically up to your website and up the pages.
No, that's great. I mean, you said before, you guys even have a social media, like you're building a card on social media where you overlays it with a graphic image.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
That's totally awesome.
that you just grab, all right, I want to grab this review. And then you're able to like build design themes. You choose a design theme, and then we're integrated with Google Posts, Facebook, and Twitter. So then you can just check those and it'll post the same message to all 3. Instagram, you have to download and then upload.
Instagram's a pain in the butt.
App,
Instagram's a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. They're not just super open with their direct posting. Maybe someday, but we look at it, the big win in our space in local, especially, is Google Posts, right? So this is a great way to bring content on good frequency to Google Posts that are visually appealing, and it doesn't take a lot of effort.
That's really great. Okay, so with all of that, and thank you for that. So I have this fun little game that I do. I call it Optimize It or Disavow. It's where I give my guests either 2 really good options, and you're stuck choosing one good option over another good option, or 2 really crappy options. And you're in the uncomfortable position of choosing one crappy option over another crappy option. So this is the Aaron Weiche version of Optimize It or Disavow It. So it's a zero-sum world. You can say it depends, completely discouraged. But you can. We won't hurt you if you do it.
Right.
If you had to repurpose a review, would you put it on some obscure piece of documentation? Or a totally irrelevant social media platform? Think like Google Plus when that was still around.
Yeah, obscure piece of documentation, because like I said, social shelf life, like who knows when you can use that piece of documentation again, but it's like social shelf life, unless you have a massive audience, is just like here and there, right?
It's particularly if it's a garbage platform like Google Plus was.
Yes.
Just going to rank
So
on Google Plus for a second.
Yeah. I'd take the documentation and then I'd be thinking, how can I use this documentation more and make that more valuable to have it be evergreen instead of just a one and done?
That's true. Hey, documentation ranks really well for a lot of queries. It's true.
Exactly.
So, and that's what it is. Okay, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And again, check out GatherUp. And local university also is part of GatherUp, right?
Well, actually, no, we sold it last year.
Oh, you did to Sterling Sky.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
we can edit that out if you want.
No, totally. I think it's we couldn't have passed it along to better hands, and a number of us are still, speaking, part of events. Joy's a great friend. And it's one of those really cool things, right? It was local university was started by David Mim, and then taken much further between Mike Blumenthal and Mary Bowling and myself and Will Scott, Ed Reese. So Mike Ramsey. So it's this great evolution of what it's done and the local search hands it's gone through. And Joy's a fantastic person to carry the torch. At someday I'll be, done in the game of local SEO, and Joy will still be raging on. Right. So it's perfect.
No, both of you guys have done you've turned the spotlight onto local SEO in ways I don't think anyone's ever imagined. So you guys are awesome.
Appreciate that, Morty.
You got that. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you.
And we are back to your regularly scheduled In Search SEO podcast. I literally never thought of using reviews in that way before. That's brilliant. Come on, how many people have, I can repurpose my reviews. What are you even talking about? I can repurpose content. It's a great idea. Great tool there.
Right.
Got a great tool going on there. Okay. With that, let's run into some, I'm going to be honest with you, Sapir. It was a pretty light week with the news. But anyway, let's see what you got for us, Sapir, with the news.
Google is running a new video carousel as part of an organic result that shows a series of short video clips. In the case spotted, a result for a specific TikTok account showed a carousel of the creator's video clips.
Yeah, so TikTok is now on the SERP.
Right.
Great. Cool. My life is now complete. There was a user's account, a user's TikTok account, that is, and it had all these little video cards and a carousel that you can watch all of this person's idiocy on TikTok on. Great. Mm-hmm. Thank God for TikTok. Because life wasn't stupid enough without it. I'm sorry. Right. Going off the deep end here. There is some funny stuff on TikTok, though.
The boomer side of you is coming out. Okay.
It is. Come on.
Anyways.
Whatever.
Right. Okay.
I'm a barrel of laughs. TikTok.
Moving on, Marty.
TikTok. Please.
Can I move on?
No, I'm still rambling about TikTok.
Anyway.
Ridiculous. First they had the Snapchat garbage, then this TikTok thing. I'm going to make a great old man.
Oh, wow. Okay,
get out of here with your social media, you whippersnapper.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Google is giving AdSense data and a bit of an overhaul. The AdSense reports page is getting a more visual look to make data more accessible. The changes have already begun to be rolled out and will be finished in the coming week or two.
I like that your accent makes look sound like Luke. That's my big takeaway for what you just said.
I have a cute accent.
I like your accent. You have this Jean-Claude Van Damme thing going on. I love it.
Okay.
I literally would love for you. I'm gonna take a sheet of Jean-Claude Van Damme quotes about roundhouse kicking people, and I want you to read them on the next episode, please.
Oh wow. Okay. I actually watched a movie of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You watched a movie? I watched one movie.
A long time ago. He was filming, I think, in Jerusalem, but I forgot the movie.
Don't know. I haven't watched, it's been a while since Bloodsport. Anyways,
lastly, it seems Google is showing the scroll-to-text highlight parameters that it uses for featured snippet URLs inside of Search Console, which means you might be able to identify featured snippet URLs with a bit more ease.
Yeah, so the whole scroll-to-text thing tacks on a large set, a unique set of parameters to a URL. So you can see when that's happening inside of Search Console, or now you can see when that's happening inside of Search Console, which means, hey, that's probably a featured snippet, so you can identify those URLs easier. Hopefully that sticks around. That's pretty cool. There's speculation that might lead to a featured snippet filter, which what everybody really wants inside of Search Console. Did you say lastly, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good, okay. See, I always screw that up. Always screw that up. Gosh.
Oh, God.
Well, I thought, like, it's usually have more than 3 stories, but it was a really kind of slow week.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Sapir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Great job, as always.
As usual, right?
Mm-hmm. So the news is over, and that means I need to figure a better pivot to the fun send-off question. Whatever. Getting lazy in my old age. We are now done with the news. We are now going to do the fun SEO send-off question. So here's the music. Go ahead. That was literally the best pivot ever.
Yeah, it was.
Seamless.
Right.
We are done with this. Now we will do this.
Okay, just get to the fun SEO send-off question.
No, I will not. You will, because it's your question.
Okay, this week we're asking.
I'm
What
asking.
would be the...
Not we. Who's we? I didn't ask this. Take no responsibility.
We're a team, Mordy.
That's what you think.
You throwing me under the bus
I hear
here.
what you say behind my back, by the way, in meetings. That gets back to me.
Okay, anyway, this week I'm asking, what would be the number 1 item on Google's things to do before you die bucket list?
Things to do before I die. Not die, number 1.
That's a good one.
That's good. Live forever.
I would just say, like, plain bungee jumping or something.
It always gets creative with you.
Hey, the question
skydiving
is
sounds fun.
What's
Really?
wrong with bungee jumping?
Nothing.
Come on.
Other than I would never do it, but yeah.
Why?
It doesn't, like, these, like, thrill things, like, they don't really appeal to me. Like, yeah, I want to feel like what it might be to feel like I'm going to die. Like, that doesn't appeal to me. I want to feel like what it feels like to live. Like,
Okay.
My life is not so boring, so that I need to, liven it up by trying to die. That makes no sense to me. I am way too rational for bungee jumping. I'm also way too scared, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. My answer would be, let's see, things to do before you die bucket list Google. Item number 1. Finish taking over the world.
Oh, it's Pinky.
Or it's Pinky in the brain. Or at least... Exactly. Or at least take down Amazon.
Oh, wow. Ambitious. Okay.
Finally kill off Bing.
Oh, okay, let's stop it here.
Testify before Congress one more time.
Oh, wow.
Keep going.
No.
Monopolize a little bit more. So I should probably stop before I'm going to go too far. I'm just going to go too far. That'll do it for this week's version of the InSearch SEO podcast. Tune in again next Tuesday for an all-new episode of the InSearch SEO podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been InSearch because we're all in search of...
Something.
Toodles!